the mic shake? Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam tasliman kathiran. Amma ba'd, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Inshallah, we'll try to take some questions from the line. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. And first and foremost is wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, I'm well, I'm good. Thank you very much for asking. I hope that all of you guys are doing well as well, and that you're safe, and that your Iman is being preserved, and inshallah ta'ala that you're all working hard on furthering your Iman and pushing it and allowing it to grow and develop and mature to higher heights. Idhnillah ta'ala should be your daily goal. Should be your daily goal with regards to checking your Iman, maintaining it, and allowing it to flourish and develop. And if you're fighting, if you're on the ropes spiritually, then not losing no ground to the shaitan, nor to the nafs, nor to the people and their whims and what they want from you, which go against or which goes against al-Iman. It's very important with regards to moving forward, or with regards to staying put where you are, conquering new ground, conquering new lands, new seas, versus governing what you have conquered, versus maintaining and holding down what you already have. Because an empire may lose its strength to go on the initiative. This is proven in history. An empire, a dynasty, a state, it may lose the ability to launch offensively. May not be strong enough, may have too many fronts, too many enemies, too much inside turmoil. But it doesn't mean that it's losing territory at home. Our boundaries and borders remain as they were. But we don't have the ability to go offensively anymore and conquer new ground and new territory. But we're maintaining what we already have. Versus a person being or state being too weak to go on the offensive, and at the same time its borders and boundaries are being pushed back daily and monthly and yearly. And there are people encroaching upon their territory, and their wide state, whether it was in one continent, is gradually shrinking and collapsing. There's a huge difference. So I may not be able to shoot high. I may do all of those extra deeds and those extra supererogatory acts of sadaqah and dhikr and ilm and hajj and umrah and all of the special things. But at least I'm maintaining the basics, or I'm maintaining the special things that I was doing. I'm not losing ground on that. Shaitan wants me to miss from the 5 daily prayers. I don't have the ability to make the prayer at night for one reason or another. Sleep problems, being busy with something more important, whatever it may be. I can't pray at night. I haven't made the witr, or because of a sin. But now the shaitan wants me to miss the 5 prayers, wants me to miss fajr, wants me to miss dhuhr. I said I refuse to relinquish that. I refuse to relinquish that. So bid'nillahi ta'ala, the daily goal of looking at your Iman and where it stands and how it stands. And is it rising? Is it plummeting? Is it remaining stagnant? Is it still? There are different levels of fighting. And this is all summarized in the statement, the famous athar that we've explained many times before, of Abu Darda radiallahu ta'ala anhu, in which he said, "Inna min fiqh al-mar' or inna min fiqh al-abdi." He says that from a man's understanding, from the things that proves that a man is smart and wise and mentally savvy, he says, "An yanzura." He says for him to look at his Iman. "Ayanqusu imanuhu am yazdad?" Is his Iman growing or is his Iman falling? That's from the signs of an intelligent person. And a true intelligent and wise person knows that I don't always have the ability to go on the offensive. Sometimes I may just be at a standstill, but I'm not giving up anything, versus you giving up territory. And the next thing you know, it's not much left of what your Iman used to be. So be mindful of this. We've explained this many times before, and there's so many different distractions in our world in general, especially in our world today, with COVID, with the elections, with so many different ways of the people snatching and grabbing your attention, oftentimes we neglect and we ignore the greatest thing that we should be focusing on and worrying about and thinking about. And that is the state of our Iman, the state of our faith. And what are we doing to flourish and grow? What are we doing to maintain? Or what are we doing to regain previously lost territory? That's also an aspect of warfare. Regaining previously lost territory. Now we want to take it back. I was making these extra prayers. I was giving this extra charity. I was making this extra dhikr. I stopped. Now it's time to get it back. وهكذا. Wallahu alam. First question says, how can a mu'min attain confidence of the haqq and not compromise in the truth? What should they busy themselves with and abstain from? Well, knowledge is the foundation of everything. The foundation of yaqeen and of thabat is ilm. The more knowledge you have of Allah, of His names and of His attributes, the more ilm that you have of that as a starting point, and you practically work and implement what you know of Allah's names and attributes, everything else will fall in line progressively. So confidence and strength comes in you knowing that there's someone who's stronger than you. And there's someone who gives victory to whom He wills, when He wills. And there's someone who makes firm. And there's someone who raises and elevates. And there's someone who causes people to be base and mean, lower others and raise others. And that's Allah Azza wa Jal. So let me rely upon Him. Let me learn more about Him. Let me act upon what I already know about Him. يُثَبِّتُ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا بِالْقَوْلِ الثَّابِتِ. That's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the foundation of that is ilm. Also, as asking Allah, tawassul ilayhi bi asma'ihi al-husna. تطلب من الله عز وجل بالأسماء المناسبة القوي العزيز اللهم كما ثبت وهكذا في الأدعية الواردة في الكتاب والسنة. والله تعالى عالم. Next question states, EA, Valenciennes, France. Is it true that the 10 nullifiers are not suitable for beginners? It depends on what you mean by beginner. Somebody that doesn't know anything about Islam, someone that doesn't know anything about ilm, or someone who's not a scholar. It depends what do you mean by a beginner. But in general, I don't agree with that. I think the most basic, the 10 nullifiers of Islam, the things that if you say or do or believe in will cause your Islam to be nullified. Are these 10 things unsuitable for beginners? I think that every person, beginner or not, should be taught about the reality of losing out on the greatest gift that they have been given. No doubt about that. I would tell a new Muslim that you have to practice, you have to pray, you have to do this. And Allah has granted you this wonderful gift. And like other things in life, that wonderful gift can be taken away from you. Or you yourself can squander it. No doubt about that. If you gave someone an expensive car, you gave someone a gift, a very expensive, luxurious car, you wouldn't tell them to be careful? You wouldn't tell them to drive carefully? You wouldn't tell them to be easy on the car? Of course you would. Even though they're a beginner, of course you would. As far as the details of those things, nawaqidul Islam, the things of which the ulama agree, the things of which the ulama differ, etc., 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 then of course, that is unsuitable for a beginner. And that's in any field. And that is with any book or with any scholar, with any author. Okay? As Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu ta'ala anhum has said regarding the ayah in Surah Ali Imran, وَلَكِنْ كُونُوا رَبَّانِيِّينَ. Be Rabbani scholars. It's narrated that he says, هُوَ الَّذِي يُعَلِّمُ النَّاسَ صِغَارَ الْعِلْمِ قَبْلَ كِبَارِهِ. Simple, easy, and plain. He says a Rabbani scholar is the one who teaches the people the basic knowledge, the easy knowledge, the simple knowledge, before the complex knowledge, before the deep and extended, confusing knowledge. It's just that simple. So it's not specific to the 10 nullifiers of Islam. Salah, prayer. The basics of Iman and Tawheed. You teach a beginner, simple, easy, baby steps. allow them to grasp it, allow them to comprehend it, allow them to practice it, and you gradually, progressively mold and cultivate them. That's what anything, not just the 10 nullifiers about Islam. As far as keeping the beginner totally ignorant and oblivious to the fact that people leave Islam and apostatize, then no. You tell them the reality is that everyone who's a Muslim is not going to remain a Muslim. And you're a Muslim today doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to die a Muslim tomorrow. And it is your job to preserve this wonderful gift of Allah, the gift of Hidayah, guiding you. And just yesterday, you were lost. Just last year, I was lost. Just 100 years ago, we were lost. Just 500 years ago, these people were lost. 1,000 years ago, this nation was lost. And Allah gave them Hidayah. So that's very important, even for a beginner, even for a new Muslim. And Allah knows best. Next question states, we want to be there next Thursday, inshallah, Sheikh. All right. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Muhammad Salah from Farawani, Kuwait. How to overcome Wiswas al-Qahri? We answered that question many times with regards to the Wiswas. AB from Tangier, Morocco. How does one treat an apostate cousin dying for attention who is also married to a man? Can one even respond to his messages? Allahumma musta'an, yani. Person left Islam and they're married to a man. And they're your family member. They're your cousin. You're not that close of a family member. Give them dawah. Give them nasiha to come back to Islam. Give them advice to return back to the deen. If they come to you, if they're dying for attention, then utilize that. If you want attention, no problem. I'll give you attention in the form of dawah. Come back to being a Muslim. Don't die in that state. Do not allow yourself to leave this world in that state of turning your back on Allah. Give them dawah. And Allah knows best. And if you keep giving them dawah, and they refuse to listen, or they want to change the subject, or they want to talk about other things, no problem. He'll stop contacting you. And you haven't turned your back on him as a family member or a relative. You've given him the greatest sila, the greatest bir, which is da'wah. And Allah knows best. Next question states, R.A. from Richmond, California. What's the ruling on eating hot Cheetos? And such I love you for the sake of Allah. أحبك الذي أحببتني فيه. I don't know of any prohibition of eating hot Cheetos. As far as if it's some type of pork enzymes or something like that, I don't know about that. And if that's not the case, there's nothing wrong with it. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Sheikh Abbots, Langley, UK. Assalamu alaikum. Please explain exactly what you mean by that. EA from Valenciennes, France. Where are the boundaries regarding cutting ties with friends because they are sinners? When should we get away from them? Well, everybody in general is a sinner, quote unquote. In general. As far as a sinner, meaning someone who's a public, open, chronic, disobedient servant. Someone who's making sin publicly, openly, systematically, every day, in front of the people. No shame, no shyness. And they do it chronically. They're a sinner. Okay? Then it depends. I would say it depends on what type of sinner they are. Are they calling you to it? Do they know that it's wrong? Is there a circumstance in why they're making that sin? Do they acknowledge that they're at fault and they're weak? It depends. There are different Muslims who have different attitudes. There lies no doubt. There's no question about it. I've met many Muslims in America and abroad. They'll drink alcohol and they feel bad. They have remorse. They're ashamed, but they're addicted. I'm not going to treat him the same as the Muslim who's drinking alcohol and says, I don't care, get out of my face. You're not better than me. You're a sinner too. You're a hypocrite too. You make sins too. You're not holier than me. You can't judge me. I'm going to keep drinking and Allah will forgive me. They're two different worlds. The Muslim, you come across him, his breath smells like alcohol, and he tries to hide the bottle, or he puts the flask up. He tries to take a piece of gum, or he says, I'm weak. Please make dua for me. You look righteous. That's not the same as a Muslim who has a different attitude. So if I see that drunk Muslim on the street again, or if I get in a taxi cab, hopefully he's not driving drunk. All right. I've been in cabs with drunk Muslims before. The Lord knows I'm not making this up as a lie. I've been in a car before with drunk Muslims. All right. So you come across him again, no doubt. You're going to give him salams. No doubt you're going to give him dawah. You're gonna be more warm to that person versus the other one. So it depends on the attitude of the sinner. And the ulama of al-Islam, they have mentioned the dawabit al-hajr, the regulations, the rulings, and the finely tuned details of boycotting a Muslim. Scholars of Islam, listen carefully. They have mentioned and they have explained the rulings and the finely tuned details with regards to cutting off a Muslim. And one of the most harmful things that have happened to the world today, and specifically the Western Hemisphere today, is people neglecting and ignoring those rulings and those finely tuned details. And from that which the scholars of Islam have mentioned is that hajar, boycotting a Muslim, staying away from a Muslim, cutting off a Muslim, a friend or not, etc., a family member or not, a big part of that is going to go to one's discretion. It's going to go to your specific judgment. In this instance, don't cut him off. Even though technically that person could be cut off, but here, keep speaking to him. Keep speaking to this one. Visit this person. And in another instance, another time, you say what? Leave that Muslim alone. He gives you salams, don't reply. He invites you to his walima, don't go. He's ill, he's in the hospital, don't visit him. So a big part of boycotting a Muslim is based off of personal what? Discretion. You have to weigh the situation. Weigh this here, naam. And obviously, hajar is a two-way street. Boycotting and cutting off a Muslim is a two-way street. There are times in which you cut off a Muslim for the benefit of that Muslim. And there are times in which you cut off a Muslim for the benefit and protection of yourself. Many people who spread boycotting and cutting off Muslims for bid'ah or for sins, they never even heard of this. They don't even know this. They never even studied it and they don't care either. There's hajar wiqa'i wa hunaka hajar ta'deeb. Hajar wiqa'i is I'm staying away from you because I fear that it will spread to me. I'm afraid that Allah's curse will come down upon me and I'm in your house. I'm afraid that I will be punished for being around you and you have alcohol with you. I'm protecting what? Myself. And then the second type of boycotting and cutting off a Muslim, in which you're trying to help out the brother by cutting him off. Dang, Mufti didn't even speak to me. He walked right by me. The Muslims didn't even speak to me. My wife sent a message to the masjid saying that Brother Abdullah, he's sick in the hospital. None of the brothers from the masjid visited me. That's meant to hurt him. He's supposed to be hurt. And that pain is supposed to turn him towards stopping the disobedience to Allah, whatever that disobedience may be. Everyone understand this? In which a person is cut off, and then they feel the effects of being cut off, and it takes them back to Allah. It takes them back to Allah. So it depends. Why are you going to cut off a Muslim and boycott a Muslim? It depends. And there are rulings on this. And there are finely tuned regulations for this. And if that's not the case, then the default is that you are to reply the salams. You're to reply and return the salams to a Muslim. You're supposed to visit the Muslim. You're supposed to follow the Muslim's procession, etc. And Allah knows best. Next question states, Fadal, and next shay. Type. Next question states, indeed, from New York, New York, is it halal to name a baby boy Sujood? I don't know of any prohibition of that, to name a child Sujood. Obviously, it's best to name them Sajid, one who makes Sujood, or Sajjad. That's better. Sajid, whatever, however you want to word it. As far as naming a child after a part of the prayer or a section of the prayer, I don't know of any prohibition of that. Wallahu alam. SM from London, what is your opinion on Muslims who vote Republican and as a result are mistreated by other Muslims? You're not to mistreat any Muslim, especially over an issue of ijtihad, an issue over which there's valid difference. and there is no hardcore, concrete, solid proof and evidence stating halal or haram. You are not to mistreat any Muslim over an issue that could go in a different way. Something that isn't clear cut, clearly concrete. And even if voting in general, Democrat or Republic, let alone Republican or Democrat, if it was haram, it was agreed upon by all of the Muslims, the scholars of Islam said that it's haram, there's the circumstance and the situation. A Muslim may vote Republican or Democrat because they feel that they have to vote, or it's a need or a necessity, etc. So I think that there are enough people out there in the world who hate Islam and hate Muslims for us to rush towards mistreating a Muslim. And this is one of the cancers of our ummah. It's one of the things that we are suffering from today, is that we rush forth to be harsh and mean to a fellow Muslim. And there are plenty other people out there, if you want to be harsh and mean and a tough guy and you want to be violent, wallah, there are thousands of people out there that you can fight that hate you, that hate your religion, and hate every single thing that you stand for. From your tawheed, to wudu, to salah, to your beard, to your ethnicity. They hate everything about you. So, if there's a need to mistreat someone or to be mean and harsh, then I think you should prioritize. If the Muslims only paid attention to this, some brothers, you see them, they walk down the street, they have a frown on their faces. And we live in a country and a land and a place in which there's 50 people you can frown at. And the Muslim who puts his head on the ground just like you should be the what? The last one that you're frowning at. There are people who want to be tough guys and threaten Muslims and beat up Muslims and pull out guns on Muslims. Wallahi. And be gangsters towards Muslims. I can take you to plenty places in New York, Philly. I can take you to neighborhoods and places in which tafaddal. These where the tough guys are. Go ahead and be a tough guy among them. And you'll see how long you'll last. So this is a cancer that we have. This mistreatment of Muslims. Okay? As if we're not the minority. As if there aren't other things of priority. So we have to be careful of that. Extremely careful of that. Next question comes from Manchester. Initials HK. Advice, Sheikh, for beginner students and with the amount of shubuhat are going on. Secondly, should we tell non-Muslims rule by the Sharia with all the propaganda going on? As far as advice to a beginning student of knowledge, and stick to your teacher. Stick to your teacher. Be loyal to your teacher. Stand by your teacher's side and soak up all the ilm that you can from your teacher and your mentor. That's my advice to a beginning student of knowledge. Is to stick by the side of your teacher and to be the shadow of your teacher. And when you think that you got it and you think that you've learned it, you need to stay with your teacher even more. That's my advice. As far as the part of the question regarding telling Muslims about the Sharia or something like this, I don't know what happened here. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allah. I have an issue here. Technical